Welcome to the 2022 GCLS annual meeting. I'm Betsy Carswell, the board president and director of communications. I'm so glad so many of you chose to spend your Sunday with us, part of your Sunday with us, to hear about GCLS, both what we've been up to and what we plan for the future. This meeting is scheduled for 1 hour. We'll try not to take up too much of your time in case we have any football fans in the audience, whether it's played on a pitch or a gridiron. One reason we have this meeting is to meet the requirements of our 501c3 nonprofit status. That's not the only reason, of course. We're always happy to meet with members of the GCLS community to get to know you and to hear what's on your mind. We have several members of the board online today: Ann Etter, our treasurer; Kimberly Cooper Griffin, our director of education; Patrice James, the director of diversity and inclusion for communications; Tressa Cherry, the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Administration; and Heather Bunnell, the Director of Technology, who is helping us with the webinar logistics today; and Michelle Dunkley, our Hub Director. I recognize that this may be the first time many of you have met me, so I should introduce myself. I joined GCLS during the pandemic, finding the virtual offerings a nice respite from the monotony of life under COVID. And I retired in 2018 after a 32-year career as an intelligence officer for the US federal government. My professional background is in cartography and geospatial intelligence. My academic work is in geography, religion, clinical counseling, geospatial intelligence, and negotiation and conflict resolution. In addition to reading, I enjoy photography, travel, and theater, and my beloved Washington Mystics basketball team. I live in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill with my wife, Carol, and our tabby cat, Jaffa Cakes. And that's enough about me. Today, we will provide a financial update from our treasurer, Ann Etter, and Kimberly Cooper Griffin, our director of education, will provide an update on our educational mission. And then I will share some of what we've been up to for the last year and what we have planned for the future. And then we'll open up the floor for questions. So first, let's start with Ann and the financial update.
So we have the 2021 Form 990, which was just filed. We have a CPA in California who we've used for a very long time, who prepares the 990 for us. So that has just recently been filed, and you will eventually find it on GuideStar when GuideStar gets around to putting it up. If people would like copies of that, you can always get one on request. You just can email me at myann.etter@goldencrown.org. Our income in 2021, that's for January through December 2021, totaled about $175,000. 11% of that income came from the Writing Academy. 34% of that income came from the conference. Some of it was virtual conference, some of it was early registrations for Albuquerque. And you'll note that a good 41% of that came from gift sponsorships and memberships. So we, as always, depend upon giving from the greater community in order to produce all of our incredible content. Next, please. Our expenses were minimal in 2021. We did not have a large in-person conference at that time, and the conference is definitely one of our largest expenses. Total expenses in 2021 were about $60,000. A lot of this is for the Writing Academy. That program is overall net positive, so I didn't want the percentages to throw people off. A certain amount goes to awards, a certain amount went to the virtual conference, and then a good number of that $60,000 actually wasn't technically expenses, as they were refunds for 2020 and 2021 conferences that ended up being processed in the 2021 year. Of course, a good portion of our expenses, as always, are administrative, software fees, insurance that we have, things like that. At the end of 2021, we had over $200,000 in our checking account, over $6,000 in our PayPal account, and our stock account was worth about $7,000. We had a little bit on the credit card, and of the amounts in the checking account, $37,699 was restricted for scholarships. A restriction means that either the board or the donor has said that this money must be used for a certain purpose. In our case, almost everything that we bring in is scholarship related in terms of restricted donations. We do have a few other donations that are restricted for specific purposes, and a brand new fund restricted account that I'll talk about in a minute. In many cases, the restricted amounts are what is called temporarily restricted, meaning that we can actually use the entire amount. We just have to meet certain criteria, and in most cases, that means scholarships. We do not have yet a P&L for 2022, but as of the end of October in 2022, we had just under $200,000 in our checking account. We have $110,000 in our savings account, and the stock investment account was worth over $11,000. We have a little bit on the credit card, and we have $40,000 available for scholarships. So that savings account, of that savings account, 10,000 is really just operational funds that were placed in there to open the savings account in anticipation of the $100,000 restricted gift that we received for awards. This gift is being used to help support the awards program and will result in awards that I think Betsy has on her list to discuss later. So that is what that savings account is for. It is a restricted gift, and it is where the changes in the award program are coming from. And I think that's it. Yes?
Yes, thank you, Anne. Next up, we have Kimberly Cooper Griffin with information on our educational programming. Kim?
I'm really excited about giving this discussion about the education at GCLS because education has recently expanded a little bit, and I'm excited to talk to folks about it. Before we get started, I just want to talk about how important education is at GCLS. It is the focus of our nonprofit status because of our charter to provide visibility to about the literature of loving women in Sapphic literature. So everybody who's involved with that is important here. And this is our charter that we work with. Everything that we do comes back to this charter. So what we're trying to do is to blend that into each one of the things that we do and explain that to you. And in the past, I'm not sure that we've talked about it a whole lot. So that's what we're going to do today. So the way that the education aspect of GCLS supports the charter is in a big part by the Writing Academy. It's a fundamental part of what GCLS is. And we have several students in our Writing Academies, and we'll get into a lot more detail about the Writing Academy in subsequent slides. And the conference programming is part of the education aspect. We've taken that more focused underneath education so that we can make sure that we weave in all of the elements of what GCLS stands for and wants to provide to the community, the GCLS community. We also have things like virtual series and Beyond the Writing Academy. Both of those are panels that we put out on a regular basis, usually once a month. And I'm not going to go into specifics about that, but the virtual series is something that GCLS puts out talking about something in literature. And we get requests and suggestions from people throughout the year, and we'll do that through a Zoom broadcast that everybody's invited to. It's free. It's hopefully fun. We've got a lot of good reviews and response to it. So it's something that we want to continue doing as a thing that keeps us all connected throughout the year when we're not at the conference or if we're not in the Writing Academy, that kind of thing. And then the Beyond the Writing Academy is basically the same as the virtual series, although it's more focused on students from the Writing Academy taking initiative to talk about something that they've learned or something that they might want to share from it. So students from the Writing Academy put those ones together. And about every other month, we switch from virtual series, which is coming from suggestions from the membership, from the community of GCLS. And then every other month, we usually do Beyond the Writing Academy. So I'll get into a little bit more information about the Writing Academy and conference programming. The Writing Academy is something that's been around for quite a while. And many people have taken advantage of it, going to it. It's supported by generous patrons, as you saw in Anne's slides, that we have several people that are so generous and help us with that. And they work with us to put this on for the people in our community that are going to the Writing Academy. The Writing Academy, I went through the Writing Academy. I feel like it was a cornerstone in my writing. And many of the students that I've talked to feel the same way. So we have two parts of the Writing Academy. One is Writing Academy 1. Finney and Burnett has been running the Writing Academy since nearly the beginning. We did have one other person start it, and then Finney took it up and has taken it to where it is right now, along with Tammy Bird. And in the Writing Academy 1, we are focused on the fundamentals of producing a completed manuscript. As you can see in the list that I've provided here, these are the names of the classes that we are giving this year. They change a little bit throughout the years as we hone it, or as we move through working on things, and we realize that we can improve it a little bit. Also, the teachers, the instructors that come in and help us, we do pay our teachers a minimal stipend, but we want to let them know that they have value to the work that they're providing to GCLS. So right now, for all of the teachers that are working with the Writing Academy, anybody who's volunteering around it, I just want to say a big thank you. We couldn't do it without you. It's a huge draw to have the caliber of writers that are helping us in the Writing Academy. So a lot of them will work on both classes now that we have the Writing Academy 2 coming up. That started the inaugural course is this year. So that's pretty exciting for us. And Tammy's doing an outstanding job getting that going too. And between Tammy and Finn, I don't know what we would do. They have such a passion for what the Writing Academy does and work so closely with the students. Okay, Writing Academy 2, this is a little bit more about what Writing Academy 2 does. This one is more focused on promoting and branding, and authors getting a little bit more information about different elements of the writing that will take them to the next level. So Writing Academy 1 isn't necessarily for new writers. I'd published 3 books prior to going into the Writing Academy, and I learned so much in there. And the community that you get from being in the Writing Academy is amazing. We've graduated 7 classes, beginning of the class of 2015 from Writing Academy 1. And as I said, we're currently in our first year of Writing Academy 2. So we'll be graduating that first class right before the conference next year. And you'll see us do our ceremony at the conference if you go. Hopefully you will. And many of the students that have gone to the Writing Academy have gone on to publish their books. We've also had several Goldie winners. Beyond the outstanding curriculum and brilliant instructors that we have, the mentoring program is a major part of what the Writing Academy does. If you're not familiar with what we do with mentoring, many of the instructors and other writers they volunteer to mentor our students. So every student gets a mentor through the Writing Academy, and they get to talk to these people and benefit from their knowledge of their publishing experience and what they know about it. And we try to connect the students with writers that are a lot more like them. So if they're writing romance, we usually put a romance writer with them. If they're doing mystery, we'll do a mystery author with them. But also we try to put together in a personality type thing. It's difficult when you have 2 introverts working together. So we take that kind of thing into consideration too. So there's a lot of work that goes into the matching of the mentors. And most of the time it works out really well. It goes on to be a relationship that is held on to for a long time. And that's a pretty cool thing. And then a really important aspect of the Writing Academy is that we want it to be accessible to everyone with a passion for Sapphic and women-loving women literature. We do charge tuition, but as you saw, we have some scholarship funds. So we don't want money to be a problem. We don't want accessibility of any sort to be a problem of somebody coming into the Writing Academy. So we try very hard to accommodate any kind of special requests that come through as far as accommodations. If somebody requires a little bit extra help or, scholarship help or just, somebody buddying up with them to help them a little bit through things, we will work with them to do that because we really do feel like anybody should be able to try to write and get their story out there. And then we'll give all the help to them to try to make that go on to the next level. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the feedback from we're going to move into the conference programming here. And the Writing Academy is a big part of what brings a lot of our interests to the conference. A lot of that comes up in, the kind of different panels that we put out there. And so the education area of the board is now kind of taking that under our wings to make sure that we meld all of the different aspects of what we're trying to get across from a GCLS perspective, why we're here, why we like the literature we're focused on, and why we're together as a community. And we have in the past had a lot of people coming back with feedback, and we couldn't always take that feedback into consideration. But because of the surveys we've been taking, we are taking that into consideration now. And you'll see here, these are just the things that floated to the top of the list of feedback. And this is specific feedback that came from our community from the survey that we did after the Albuquerque conference. And this is awesome information. So we're taking that and we're assessing all of the input, we're pulling it together, and we're trying to figure out a way to accommodate most of that. And for the programming of the conference coming up, a big part of that is panels, presentations, and master classes. Then we have other things. We have the awards ceremony. We have the keynote speakers. We have a lot of stuff that's going on at the conference, but we want to make sure that everything is threaded around the key core of what GCLS is all about, which is the literature that we promote. And so we've brought it down to, this is just a sampling of it, but this is where the major thought processes from our community came together and came up with this. So we're going to see a lot of things. People want to hear about the things and the interests over there. And then there's some suggestions about things like recording panel sessions, giving content warnings to people if they're having a difficult time with some of the subject matter. And we agree with a lot of this. And I can't think of anything that we actually disagree with, but we want to be able to make sure that we meld it into how we do our programming. So while we go through the conference programming, one of the things that we're going to do this year is we're coming up with a theme, and the theme that we're going to be doing this year is pursuing your passion. It's kind of a broad theme, but it's about that energy that goes into what you want out of GCLS, out of your writing, out of your reading, out of your creative support of the writing process and literature. And so our primary guidance based on all that feedback that we saw is we want to put a very, very big focus, and we have been putting a big focus on it, but we want to put even a more focused focus on diversity and inclusion, making sure that we have something for everyone, not just the writers, not just a certain group within GCLS. We want to make sure that everybody that comes to the conference has something for them. And then we want to make sure that we're doing mindful scheduling. The mindful scheduling, believe it or not, has always gone on, but it's so difficult to guess what people are going to want to do. And we've tried a lot of different things. As you'll recall, for the Albuquerque conference, we did I think it was a 90-minute, it was 90-minute panels. Some people loved it. Some people didn't like it. So we're going to keep that in mind. We haven't gotten to the point where we have created the schedule yet, but we're getting ready within the next week to put out the call for submissions for panelists. And we've put together when we come into the scheduling process of those panels, we're going to, we've taken your advice and your suggestions, and some of you have pled with us. Please let us know more about how that process works. So we've put together some processes that we will make available to everybody on the selection processes of the panels and the panelists. and how we put together the actual schedule so that you'll know why we're picking the things we are. We never try to exclude anyone. We want to include as many people as we can. So depending on the submissions that come to us, we will make these decisions, and sometimes we'll put some information in there to kind of fill out a schedule, to bring things together, to bridge things. So the areas that we are going to introduce this year is, as a direct action from the feedback, is we're going to be working very closely with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee on making sure that we thread that through every one of our panels, that we're walking the walk, not just talking the talk about inclusion and diversity. And we're going to be we're going to be weaving the diversity and inclusion into everything we do within the scheduling. So hopefully that's going to be evident this year. We have a lot of work to do. We're right now working to create specific goals and metrics to measure and improve our efforts in diversity and inclusion. And if anybody's ever worked within that area, you'll see how difficult that is. You'll know how difficult that is because it's easy to make a misstep. We don't promise to be perfect in this, but we will react and respond to anything that comes up if somebody does have an issue with anything, because we want to make sure that we are doing it right and that we're not just doing it as an exercise in saying this is what we do. We want to make sure that it's evident in the work we're doing. It's been seen in our conference programming in the past, which we've analyzed, and we try to improve ourselves going forward with that, working with the GCLS community to make sure that happens. And part of that is going to be my job to make sure that I'm expressing that to people before it becomes a question, but also responding when there are questions. There will also be something for everyone to ensure our content is interesting to our entire community and not just a segment of it. We're going to ensure that the timing and scheduling of sessions for people within a certain area of interest will be easier to put together a personal schedule for each person that comes to the conference. In the past, we've had usually about 4 things going on at each time or segment within our conference. And so we're going to take that and try to make sure that we tag things so that you know that the programming is towards a certain interest, definitely the higher level interests of readers and writers, and the folks that work within the creative aspect of bringing a book to life. Which includes publishers, editors, narrators, cover artists, that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we have a little bit of everything for folks. So we're going to tag things so that you know exactly what's kind of down your alley of interest. And if you have a difficult time, hopefully, we kind of hope that people do have a hard time picking, because we want to make sure that the content is all that great. But whatever your interest is, you'll know how to leverage your timing based on what's going on inside the schedule. So that's something that we actually tried to do in the past, and we're going to try to improve on going forward with that. Another really exciting part of what we're going to do is we're going to do some deliberate social justice programming at the Denver conference so that everyone has an opportunity to learn how to be a supporter of social movements within our community. This is something that we don't want to go into too much discussion in this, because this is our annual meeting, but it's something that has a lot of people talking, and we want to make sure that we at least give the knowledge that we have and why we're making decisions based on the ideas that we are teaching folks within our community. So we're going to do a social justice programming. So we hope to have people submit some ideas around that. And again, it's going to be difficult. We're not going to be perfect at it. This is going to be the beginning of trying to do this. So we do want to have input on it. And ultimately, we'll put together a schedule, and hopefully it'll work out pretty well. But anything that's not working out well, we'll try to work forward to improve it. So, we're not going for perfection. We're going to go for making sure people feel very comfortable, and that we're working with you on that. And then another very exciting thing is we're going to have some more hands-on content via workshops. We have master classes We have presentations that a lot of times are kind of a workshop kind of thing, but we're going to have specific workshops for both readers and writers, and they'll be going on throughout the conference. So yeah, you're going to have a difficult time trying to figure out what it is you want to be doing mostly during this thing, because we have so much good content here. So, but we're going to try to make it easy for you so that we're not overlapping a lot of stuff. So now this is the end, pretty much the end of this this part of it. I'm so excited about what we're going to be doing. If anybody wants to talk to me specifically about anything that was brought up on this, feel free to email me directly. I know that I might get overwhelmed, so we'll see how far that goes. But I'm at k.coopergriffin@goldencrown.org. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But in the meantime, we're going to put out that call for programming for submissions. And this is for the all of the panels and presentations that we're going to be doing. And I want to get flooded with ideas. I want to make it difficult for us to make our selections because they're all so great. And as we go through that selection process, we will have a selection process posted so you know how we're making these decisions. And sometimes it is a very difficult decision, but we also want to make sure that you get feedback on why we made the decisions we did. And we will be working with you if we do combine ideas and things like that, because we do only have a finite amount of slots. But please let us know what your ideas are, because there's a lot out there. I keep on hearing about them. And we want to put those out there for everybody else to go through and to benefit from your good ideas. So thank you very much. And I'm very excited to be here working with the education.
Thank you very much for that update. It's very interesting, the idea of more hands-on activities at the con, because I think that was an experiment we tried in Albuquerque and it was very successful. So I'm excited to hear about that. So this has been an eventful year for GCLS with progress in all of our content areas. In our education programming, as Kim briefed, we added a second Writing Academy curricula, the Writing Academy 2. We also ran another year of the popular virtual series program. This is a wonderful way for us to connect authors and readers over the year. And it's particularly valuable for those who may not be able to come to an in-person event because of cost or geography, making our programs more accessible for all. It will also allows us to include panelists from across the United States and around the world. Some examples of what we've put on this year are She and Beyond, exploring gender from femme to non-binary, beta readers and the authors who love them, European authors writing for a US American audience, taxes for US authors, and So You Want to Be a Screenwriter. We had some significant growth with the awards program, which will come to fruition next year. Starting with the 2023 Goldies, we have a new category, audiobook narration. This was an initiative from our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. In addition to being a popular and fun way to experience a story, audiobooks make our literature accessible to readers with physical disabilities and neurodiversities that make reading a physical or ebook difficult or impossible. And audiobook narrators' work is critical to making these stories accessible and entertaining. Also, starting with the 2023 Goldies, we're offering monetary prizes. $1,000 will be awarded for the highest scoring novel in the genre-specific novel categories. These monetary awards are thanks to an amazing donation from the Aronson Bestoff Fund of the Greater New Orleans Foundation. So for the first time since 2019, we were able to gather for an in-person conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was a wonderful gathering, providing an opportunity for longtime friends to get together after a long hiatus, and an opportunity for many new people to experience a GCLS conference. We got valuable feedback, both positive and constructive, following the conference, which we've all read and discussed. We definitely got the message about roundtables at the author signing. If you know, you know. Thanks to the generosity of the GCLS community, we were able to provide full or partial conference scholarships for 19 people for about $10,000. We heard a lot of really positive, joyful response on social media and heard a lot of folks who haven't been before are now planning to join us in Denver because of that response. We've heard from several attendees who said that they felt more welcome than they ever had at a conference, a sign that the inclusive language and environment supported by the work of the D&I committee, particularly the Code of Conduct, is having a positive impact. Over the year, we also introduced the GCLS Hub, our own social network. And since January 2022, our mailing list has grown by 451 email addresses. So what are we planning for 2023? We're looking to do some outreach. We're planning an outreach event in the New York metropolitan area. We're still trying to locate a location to put the event, and it'll probably be held in March because we're hoping to avoid snow. We plan to have programming and connection with panels, readings, and books for sale. We're also looking at a possible DC event at some time after that in partnership with a brand new queer bookstore in DC's Capitol Hill. And if you have a regional event that you'd like to have in your area, let us know. The Denver conference. Bridget Nelson, our conference director, is leading our conference efforts and is working with Judy Camella to deliver a fun and educational conference in Denver. There is an active committee and ground crew developing activities for the event, and I hear some fan favorite activities will be returning, along with new things to do. For fundraising, we are still looking for a fundraising director. Please give some thought as to whether you might be able to help us in this crucial area. Thank you to everyone who has donated to GCLS over the year. We appreciate every donation, large and small. Your investment in GCLS's work allows us to continue providing connection and content to the whole community. You also help provide scholarships for people to attend the Writing Academy and the in-person conference. Your continued support provides us the opportunity to explore new ways for GCLS to meet our mission to increase the visibility and quality of Sapphic literature. And if you'd like to donate, we've dropped the donor box link in the chat. Every dollar makes a difference. And finally, I want to thank all the volunteers who support the daily operations of GCLS. GCLS could not function without the efforts of all our volunteers who devote time and apply their knowledge, skills, and abilities to the GCLS mission. We wouldn't have a Writing Academy, an awards program, an annual conference, or a virtual series without the many volunteers. And I'd add the board of directors to this volunteer shout out. Each member of the board is a volunteer. They have jobs, families, and other responsibilities that tug at their time and energy. I am personally thankful, as I'm sure you all are, that they've chosen to volunteer their time to keep GCLS moving forward. Every one of our volunteers does this out of a sense of love for this literary community. Thank you to each and every one of you. And now we'll start to look at some questions. Do you have questions about regional events, about education programming, Denver, Orlando 2024, the Writing Academy? I see we have some questions, but continue to put questions in the Q&A box. Let's see.
Betsy, I've got 2 questions that Kim's ready to answer.
Okay.
Doreen asked, there's no mention of the editing process in producing a book. Do you plan to add it in the future? Yeah, definitely. This will be something that we continue to talk about. Editing is a huge part of the book publishing process, and we will continue to have panels on it. We've had several panels in the past. I think some of them are actually up on our YouTube channel, but we will continue to do it because it's an ongoing thing. The energy is there and people really want to hear it. So I don't know if it's going to be specific in the conference yet because we haven't opened up the submissions yet, and we're going to go through all the submissions first. But definitely it would be a big part of that discussion or that decision making during that, because we want to make sure that we do have something, and that's something that hits everybody. That doesn't just hit just the editors, you know, that hits the writers, the publishers, the readers like to hear about that kind of stuff too. So that's a broad enough thing that I'm pretty sure that it'll make the agenda, but we'll see how that goes. And if anything else, if we don't do it there, we will do a dedicated one in our virtual series in the Writing Academy or something else, because it comes up continuously. It's a great question. I love that question. And then I also have a question here. We would like to see more recognition for advanced published writers versus beginners. And that's what Writing Academy 2 is more about. And I agree. We don't do a whole lot of basically career development for advanced writers. And I think that's where the workshops would come in very handy, because we don't want to just have workshops that are available for new people. We want to make sure that the advanced writers and reviewers and people that are reading for a specific kind of living kind of thing, the advanced aspect of literature. So we should focus on those things. So that's a great question. I'm going to make sure that that's on my tablet so that I keep on going back to it to make sure that we are focusing on those folks during the programming aspect of the conference, as well as the virtual series going forward. But definitely Writing Academy 2 does get into that quite a bit. I actually do a class myself on revisions and how to deal with criticism for advanced writers.
GCLS used to host readings during Women's Week in Provincetown for those of us not with BSB or Bywater. Any plans to do that again? We've had some discussions about that. My understanding is that we've been in the past and it was not very well attended. I'll have to do more research into that, but we are looking at various outreach opportunities, and so you will be hearing more about that, but I don't have anything specifically about Women's Week in Provincetown. And are you still going to be holding a conference in the UK? If so, has a town been selected? We still want to look at having a conference or having an event of a conference in the UK. We did a lot of research. We came up with some options and found that they just were too expensive for what we were looking for. So I've had some conversations this week about investigating some alternatives to that. So we are still looking at it. We just haven't firmed anything up. How about a DC DMV region event? Absolutely. I mentioned that there's a new bookstore that's opened up. It's actually just blocks from my house on Capitol Hill. And I've already been in to chat with the owner to discuss the possibility of partnering with them. The bookstore, it's teeny weeny, it's very small, but they have partnerships with a place called As You Are Bar. If you've been to DC, you may know about it, where we could do something bigger. And then the Capitol Hill Library is just up the street and they can host large events. So we are looking at the DC DMV region, absolutely. With the possible migration from Twitter, could the hub be promoted more? Yes, we are having to look at social media more. Right now, the hub is not used as much as maybe we would like. The thing about social media is that you have to have a lot of engagement, and we have to figure out a way to either build engagement there or look at alternatives. I'm not sure what we will do with the Twitter situation. We sort of have to see what's going to happen with that. But yes, absolutely, the hub could be promoted more. For those who've applied for scholarship help for Denver, should they go ahead and register and reserve their spot now? Is selling out a concern? I'm not concerned about selling out. I mean, I think that would be a wonderful problem to have, but I think we have plenty of room. The numbers, we're having a very good response right now. We're not concerned about our response level, but I think you can wait to register and go ahead and apply for scholarship help. How about allowing book signing with author reading instead of just at the end of the conference? That's a very interesting idea. I will pass that on to our conference director. If I understand the question correctly, you mean for an author to have some books available at the end of an author reading, and then they can just sign the books right there. And so I will pass that on That's a great idea. I'll pass that on to the Denver conference. And how are regional events being encouraged and promoted? Well, we will be advertising them through our normal methods, through Facebook, through Twitter, through the hub, through email. And we will also be working with local organizations so that they are promoted within the local community. We're still in the early stages of planning, so we haven't actually started to promote, but we would love for there to be regional events in various places, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. And in some cases, it may be about us having someone who is present in that location that we can partner with and support for them to build something in their own neighborhood. Since there is no longer a GCLS membership, is consideration being given to something like a required registration when votes are taken? For example, where to hold a conference or the Popular Choice Awards. We're looking into that. I have had a chat with Heather, our tech director, to figure out a way for us to use some sort of an online platform that will help us manage the voting, particularly where we're looking at the Popular Choice Awards because of the changes to the awards program. And there are some platforms out there that will do things like only allow you to vote once and that kind of thing. So there are a lot of platforms out there. How about a West Coast event? Could include Asia. Absolutely. We have a lot of authors on the West Coast. I don't know specifically how, what our platform is or our reach is in Asia, but if there was somebody who wanted to help us organize such an event, absolutely, we would be open to that. Let's see, I did see the question about whether or not we've had our documents looked at by an attorney. I've had a conversation with the executive committee, and they are in agreement that we will have that done. I got a point of contact with an attorney who specializes in nonprofits in Florida, and that is on my list of things to do next week. I see one here, poster sessions at the conference would be beneficial. I've seen this suggestion. I'm curious about it. I have to admit I have a certain amount of ignorance over what a poster session would be. Could you send me more information on that, and I will pass it or send it to service at goldencrown.org. And I will have that passed to our conference director. Just give us a little more understanding of what a poster session would be. I've heard of them in the context of like scientific conferences and that kind of thing. Okay. GCLS had one post on Facebook in the last week. What are you doing to increase visibility there? Do you consider it an important platform? Also, the website has a lot of old stuff, not very active. I will take personal responsibility for that as the director of communications. Yes, we need to engage more on Facebook and Twitter and the hub and Mastodon or wherever it is everybody's going to end up going. I'm not sure. And I have gathered together a group of folks who are going to we're going to have a social media team, and we're going to be looking at ways to increase our social media presence and engagement in various virtual platforms. So it is in planning. We just we got to get the folks together, and we'll meet and we'll talk about it. And if you have ideas, send them to us, service@goldencrown.org. That's nice. There's a thank you for our hard work, and very mumuch appreciated. Please don't forget those of us who only do email and websites. Absolutely not. We won't forget you. We will send out the emails. I I sent out my first sort of newsletter last month, and I will be putting together one for this month. I've got a lot of content for that. And I have tasked one of the board members to really look at our website and figure out how we can add some more content to that. So we have not forgotten about you. That is one of the challenges, is the multiplicity of platforms, and each of them engage in a different way. So it takes a bit of time and energy to hit all of those things. There's nothing on the website about the open position on the board. Can you post it? That's interesting. I thought that I actually thought we were a little bit behind in updating the website, and I think it indicates that there are positions that are open that are actually filled now. We are working on that. I just had a conversation with JD Sinclair, another new member of the board, who is pulling together bios and that kind of thing, and is going to update that portion of the website. And now I think maybe what you're asking is, why don't we have a paragraph that says we are looking for this? And that's a great idea, and I will add that to things to do. The newbie session at the conference in 2022 was 2 days in. It would be better if it was earlier. I agree. We had some challenges in fitting it in because of other things that were competing, and it wasn't ideal. And we are aware of that, and it will be earlier in Denver. This is not your only opportunity to ask us questions. We're happy to take your questions at service@goldencrown.org. We're always happy to hear from you and to engage and to hear your ideas. Our associates, what is the proper term for those who were members, still allowed to upload photos? We don't have that capability yet. We are looking for different ways that we can increase the content in our website and what that would look like. Some of us are, it's an interesting thing. When you take on a position like this, you have to learn a whole lot of new things. And I'll be honest, we are learning things like how to build a website. And so we've got some new folks on the board who have a lot more experience than someone like me. And they are taking a look at all of the content and capabilities of our website and other platforms to see what we can do to increase that. So if a photo gallery is of interest, we will certainly look into that. Will a written breakdown of the new D&I policies regarding the panels be given? I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for there. We are absolutely going to make clear more about how panels are formed. Each panel is different and has a different pool of potential panelists to choose from. Something that a lot of folks aren't aware of is that in order for someone to be on a panel, they have to be registered at the conference, because we have to know that they're coming. We don't pay panelists to come to the conference. So we have to take the population of people who are at the conference and build the panels from that population. So I'm not sure what a written breakdown of the new D&I policies would be, but we absolutely have D&I at the forefront of our thinking. We want to make sure that we have the broadest, most representative panels that we can, because it is better content. It's better for all of us. We learn more from fresh voices and from those that are experienced and everything else. Okay, I love this question. What can we do for GCLS? Not what can GCLS do for you? What can you do for GCLS? You can engage on Facebook and the Hub. You can invite people to come and participate in our activities. You can come to things like the virtual series. You can let us know what you would like, and you can help us implement it. Ideas are wonderful, and it's always helpful if you can help us with a plan and you can bring resources. And I mean like yourself and people and ideas and that kind of thing. And we can work together to bring it to fruition. I mean, that is the history of GCLS, is people coming together to build something for a community. And so the more we can do that, the more we're living into our legacy, and we're able to produce more content and activities for our community. When is the conference in Florida in 2024? Is there any concern for the conference and safety issues? I remember when we had the conference in Dallas and we had to hire security. I have to admit, I do not have at the forefront of my mind the exact dates for the conference in Orlando. It's in line with most of the other conferences that we've had. So it's sometime in the late spring, early summer, I believe. We know that people have a lot of concerns about the conference in Orlando. We don't know of any kind of specific threat or anything like that, but we are factoring that idea of what our specific security needs might be for the conference. We want to be sensitive to that, but we also want to be sensitive to the idea that that there are a lot of folks who don't feel comfortable with a lot of visible security around. So it's something that we have to balance. The hotels that we work with have internal security, and we have had positive experiences with partnering with them and having them help us if we have a specific concern. And so we will be keeping that front of mind. Couldn't panelists be given a ticket in lieu of payment? Limiting panelists to paying customers seems like a potentially high bar. Yes, and giving a ticket to the multitude of panelists that we have at a conference is just not financially tenable for us. We don't make money on the conference, and if we just gave tickets to a high percentage of the panelists, it would be disaster, I think, financially. So can the topic Denver conference be made in the hub? Yes, it can. Is the Orlando conference still scheduled because the conference hotel wouldn't reimburse the initial payment, given that Florida government is now anti-queer? It's not a good choice for location. The Orlando conference is scheduled, yes, because we signed a contract and we made a deposit. We also, by signing a contract, made a promise to make good on that contract. And we know that people are concerned about it. I'm not sure if we were I'm fairly certain we wouldn't. If we were making the decision now, we wouldn't go there. The Orlando conference contract, I believe, was signed 5 years ago. And so it is a commitment that we have to meet. We understand that there are people who may not want to go because they're concerned about it. I would also say that there is a significant queer population in Orlando, and I think that we don't want to forget them. And I think that Orlando gives us an opportunity. In fact, I think it's an obligation to reach out to the queer people and the queer allies in that community and engage with them. This is a very important time for the people who produce and love queer literature. We have a voice and we need to speak up because in the span of 1 week, I had two people in completely different environments say to me, you know, the work that GCLS does and the art that's produced by the Sapphic and women-loving women literature community saves lives. It does. It's an opportunity for people to see themselves where they maybe haven't before. It gives people a lifeline. And I think that the way that we can make the best of a situation that we wouldn't choose to put ourselves in at this point is for us to engage with the community, be visible, be smart about it, be safe about it, and be a light for people who need it. Because there are people who are in Florida who need us. So I understand the challenge, and I think that it gives us an opportunity, as Kim mentioned, with social justice, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to engage. I'm going to suggest that if you have additional questions, please reach out. We're happy to answer them. And I really appreciate each and every one of you who showed up today and spent some time away from the sports ball to learn more about GCLS. I'm very excited about what we have ahead of us. We have a lot of challenges. People who are around me for probably more than 5 minutes are probably tired of hearing me say challenge is opportunity, but it is. And I think this is a time of wonderful opportunity and energy for GCLS, and I'm really excited to be working with the group. So please reach out, please keep engaging with us, please keep reading the books, and we'll see each other virtually or in person. So I want to thank the board for coming today. And this concludes the 2022 GCLS annual meeting. And I thank you very much for your attendance.